Hello, and you're listening to Your Majesty's Secret Podcast. I like my podcast shaken, not stirred. Only on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. If you'd like to check out more shows, go to foureyedradio.com.
Bond. James Bond. Shaken, not stirred.
Utter one more syllable and I'll have you killed.
I thought Christmas only comes once a year.
For your eyes only, darling.
I never joke about my word, 007.
For England, James?
Come in, Univex. James Bond here.
Am I going to have a problem with you, Bond?
Allow me to introduce myself.
You're that secret agent! That English secret agent from England!
No, you're cleverer than you look.
Still better than looking cleverer than you are.
My God, what's Bond doing?
I think he's attempting re-entry, sir.
007 reporting for duty.
Hello, the name's Berkeley, Ziggy Berkeley from Cinema on the Rocks, and with me is Eric Dewey from Socially Awkward Studios, and you are listening to Her Majesty's Secret Podcast, only on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. That's right, this is the show where we talk about bondage, James Bondage, and all things peripherally related to bondage that don't involve Mr. Grey. We'll see you now, mind you. Speaking of peripherally related to James Bondage, we're going to go take the opposite tack of what we've been doing with the fun for the whole family episodes. So instead of looking at how the James Bond universe and its offshoots have been made accessible to all generations, we're going to look at some midnight knockoffs. Yes, this is the kind of crap that you only show after dark on cable TV or in the dusty shelves of video stores. May Blockbuster rest in peace.
Oh, so sad.
It is sad. They were an institution. I spent many a happy evening, right around, say, 10:30, 11 o'clock, going into the Blockbuster, wandering the aisles with the other bleary-eyed people, looking for something to watch, to drink my cheap beer and eat my pizza with. It was fun. It was a ritual.
It was fun.
I enjoyed it.
But not for the whole family, no.
No, not for the whole family. Indeed, while one of these movies you could probably put in front of a child, but I wouldn't recommend it just because it's too stupid. Another movie, it's up to you. Probably not the youngest children, I would say. And then the other thing we're going to be talking about, no.
Adults only on that one, folks.
Yep, so, yes, this is our Midnight Knockoffs episode where we talk about, again, a few things that aren't actually James Bond things, but knockoffs thereof. Or, if you might want to call it something else, what shit can I make Eric watch this week?
I think that would be an apt description because, unlike, we've done these episodes where we've watched some crappy movies, but there's usually at least a little something awesome sprinkled in. At least one of the things we watch will be good in some way, shape, or form. It'll at least have some value. Perhaps not the case this time around. Everything we watched, I could have easily gone my life without having seen.
My plan worked almost perfectly, except I had to watch the middle thing, too. The two things we're bookending with, I own both of these things. I've seen them several times. But the thing in the middle, yeah, I thought I was prepared. I was not prepared. But before we start talking about the knockoffs, there is a little bit of interesting stuff happening in the actual James Bond universe that you might want to check out. As I'm sure all of you are aware, a full-length trailer of Spectre has been out for a while, reveals some interesting details, gives a few interesting notions. But the folks at Mars VFX decided to see what would happen if Daniel Craig wasn't playing James Bond in Spectre, but Roger Moore was. So, if you go online and look up Spectre trailer Roger Moore, you'll be able to find a differently cut version of the trailer that takes all of Daniel Craig's appearances, splices them out, and puts Roger Moore in there, either with just scenes from some of his movies or where he's actually digitally rendered into the scene in the trailer. It's quite interesting. I'm not saying that it's a movie I'd want to see more than the one with Craig, because I don't think that's true, but it's an interesting take, and I think it's worth checking out for all of us Bond fans out there.
Always fun to check out the alternative theories and such. We had a great time doing that last episode, checking out the fan theory for Die Another Day. So yeah, it could be quite interesting. Not last episode before that even.
Yeah, we're actually getting ahead of ourselves now. It's
weird.
Awesome. But when we look at movies like the James Bond films, or say Star Wars or Casablanca, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, movies like those are why I love movies. They're what gets me into the theaters. They're what keeps me having a home video library in the age of digital. No, I actually have the real stuff. Okay, I stream a few things now. It took years, but I finally do it. But those are why I love movies. However, what this episode gets to is why I started to review movies. So we're going to get a little Ziggy history here. Aren't you excited? See, once upon a time, a friend of mine had a movie review site, and we went to a movie together, and he said that he didn't quite get it enough where he felt comfortable writing a review. He was wondering if I would write a guest review for the site, and I said, sure. And I did, and he liked it, and apparently some people commented and said they liked it too, so he asked if I would regularly contribute, and I did for a couple of months, and then I said, you know what? I don't just want to review the stuff that came out in the theater this week. I want to do more, because what I really would like to do are the movies that people aren't paying attention to as much. The cheap-ass shit in the video store. And so that was the genesis of my first independent site. And so that's what got the ball rolling all those years ago. Now, that site did end up folding when life got in the way after a while and some technical difficulties happened, but now we're on my second incarnation and been around since almost 5 years now. So guess I'm doing okay. But these are the movies that really sparked me into getting full on into writing movie reviews. And speaking thereof, I would like to give a shout out to my friend and former partner in crime, Ryan Kenner. He used to write reviews with me on my old site, and his specialty was crappy action movies of the midnight variety. And in fact, he's the person who supplied me with the copy of the first movie we're going to be watching, Once Upon a Time. So, Kenner, this episode is for you, sir. And as for the rest of you, we now are going to introduce you to a rare and special treat, and we will do so by first introducing you to the rare and special music from Laser Mission, starring Brandon Lee.
You are not prepared for this.
In the violence of the night, where you hear the siren scream, he only knows where he is going to. It's like a dream within a dream. His heart beats like a hammer, like the backbeat of a song, and the fire burns within him, and he knows he don't belong. Must be strong. He's a mercenary man. Mercenary man. Mercenary man. Mercenary man. Yeah, mercenary man. Mercenary. Mercenary man. Mercenary man.
Gotta tell you, that soundtrack could just be the best thing about this film.
Imagine listening to that song.
And I don't roughly, Oh, go ahead.
Imagine listening to that song for roughly 84 minutes.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't just mean the theme song. When I said soundtrack, I meant it. That song is the soundtrack for the film. Every time something happens, it's like music starting, it's Mercenary Man again. Then something else going on. Oh, okay, they're going to have, it's action time. Okay, Mercenary Man, all right. Oh, now it's sweet, sweet love time. Mercenary Man. Now it's, hey, He's just talking to some people. Mercenary Man. It does not matter what is going on in this film. Mercenary Man is playing in the background. And holy crap, that is a pile of poo.
When it's not being sung, any incidental music is just the instrumental part from
Mercenary Man. Because he's a mercenary man. That heaping, steaming pile of goodness comes to us courtesy of David Knopfler, who is not the Knopfler from Dire Straits. It's the Dire Straits guy's brother. So that's how good this movie is. Okay, they tapped the brother of a guy who was in a one-hit wonder band. to do the soundtrack.
Don't forget, I can't believe you're missing this part, Eric.
Uh-oh.
They tapped the brother of the guy who did Storybook Love from The Princess Bride.
Hey, now that was a good song. All right.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, if you want to credit Mark Knopfler, I figure you should credit him for his best stuff.
There you go. Well, if they could only have gotten Mark instead of David for this, maybe, just maybe.
Oh, no. This movie does not deserve Mark Knopfler. However, I was so happy, and as always, we tend not to discuss these things beforehand, but because we were going to be queuing up the music for the show, Eric brought it up to me before we started recording that he wanted to do this. And it made me so happy to hear that he wanted to do this, because whether he realized it or not, it means that he gets it. Because the one crappy song is one of the hallmarks of the golden age of direct-to-video, which this is from. Golden age of direct-to-video basically coincides with the most popular time of the blockbuster video era, which is the late 80s throughout the 90s, and then pretty much starting to die off 2000, 2001, and then gone.
It is somewhat starting to come back because now we're getting the direct-to-instant video stuff.
But that's not the same thing.
If you've gone 3 levels deep in Netflix like I have, you might find that some of it is exactly the same. Sometimes they manage to get better actors for it, as we discussed last episode. But some of it's still the same cheesy stuff that's just, the same storyline regurgitated 100 times with very, very slight changes.
It's the same storyline, but there's a slightly different flavor. Like, another hallmark of these movies, about half of them, like this one that we're discussing now, the one we're going to be discussing toward the end of the show, is different. It's about a 50-50 split. About half of them were not even filmed in a widescreen aspect ratio. They were filmed for the old TV format that was, not as stretched out, not the Panavision. And so you put that in high definition, and no, it's not the same. In fact, that kind of warbly quality of the music that we heard, even on the best video quality I've seen of Laser Mission, because I've seen many prints of this. I've seen this movie 4 times now.
Well, it's because nobody cared enough to hang on to the rights to it. This movie is technically in the public domain. Anybody can print this movie on a DVD or a CD-ROM, or whatever they want to put it on, and sell the heck out of it.
And they can be a mercenary man. But to me, this is emblematic of an era. And the reason that we have it here is that it's emblematic of that era, and it also happens to be ripping off the theory of James Bond movies. One in particular it comes close to, but it even ends up ripping off James Bond movies that weren't made yet, which I think is kind of cool.
Wouldn't that mean James Bond movies were like, hey, we're running out of ideas. Hey, well, I watched this Brandon Lee flick the other day, guys. Had some good stuff in it.
And that's the other reason. In fact, this is the main reason that the average person is going to watch this movie, is specifically for Brandon Lee. Of course, as most of you know, Bruce Lee's son, very talented martial artist in his own right. Not Bruce, of course. No one is Bruce. No one will be Bruce, but still pretty talented in his own right. Died after only 6 movies. 5.5, really, because he died in the middle of making The Crow. And it's very unfortunate, not just because no one should die of an accidental gunshot wound on a set, but also because he was a genuinely talented person. I mean, Is he Laurence Olivier? No, but he's very personable. He's very charismatic. And I think any of the goodness you see in Laser Mission that has nothing to do with Mercenary Man is Brandon Lee. And it's because he obviously knows he's in a pile of shit, and he just doesn't care. He just runs with it. He doesn't phone it in. He plays it for what it's worth, and he's just having fun with it. He's enjoying himself. It's not his best movie either. I personally enjoy Showdown in Little Tokyo with him and Dolph Lundgren. But he's a very personable guy, very charismatic actor, and I'm sorry we didn't get to see more of him, more of a career from him, because I think he would have had a really good one.
Yeah, I honestly am not, don't wish the guy any harm or anything, but I'm perfectly happy not seeing any more of his acting. I didn't like anything. I know so many people who are like, oh, The Crow is so great. I watched it, and I guess I just didn't get it. I don't know. It wasn't my thing. I was like, this is cheesy and bad, and not in a good way. I did not enjoy The Crow.
But you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to call anyone who liked The Crow a hipster. In fact, I am never calling anyone that on the air ever again.
I wouldn't even, even if we weren't avoiding that, I wouldn't, because the majority of the people I know who liked The Crow had always liked it, like from the very beginning. The first time they saw it, they liked it, and that's the reason I watched it. I had an ex-girlfriend who was like, this is the best movie ever, you have to sit down and watch it with me. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I sat down and watched it. I said, what the was that? Why did you make me watch that?
I think you may find there's an interesting crossover between adults who remember The Crow from when they were growing up and thought it was the best movie ever, and those same adults who join the high school kids and love Twilight. Just saying. I'm noticing that correlation. I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying that's all of you, but I'm just saying there's a correlation that I've noticed.
Yeah, but no, I never. Yeah, very talented martial artist. never shown any evidence to me of being a good actor in anything ever, and to me, this movie, no exception. He is just bad. So everybody in this movie is so bad. I mean, the opening scene is like improv night at the community college. Seriously, it is just bad.
What, you mean the fact that they couldn't even afford a set that had real windows?
No, I'm not even talking about the set. Hey, you know what? The set I can forgive. If your acting takes me out of it and been like, you know what? I'm just focused on the people. But no, this girl. And now, let me introduce this person here, who is the cure. I don't even know what the hell he was, but she was just so stiff and like, I'm going to stand here perfectly still until it's time for me. Oh, I'm supposed to move my arm over here. So here's my arm moving like a robot because I'm terrified of the camera in front of me right now. It's just, when you open your movie with that, you have set the bar very, very low for the acting performance.
See, I just like that the arch window behind him was projected with light, which I can only imagine must have cost more than finding a real window. I don't get it.
It's just, everything about this was so cheap, and yet somehow, some way, they managed to get Ernest Borgnine to be in this film. How did he lose a bet? Did he owe a bookie some money? I don't get it.
Yeah, Borgnine.
And if you thought he was going to lend some acting gravitas to the film, you would be sorely mistaken.
Yeah, this is not Ernest Borgnine's best film or best anything ever. Certainly not his best accent. Wow, what a shitty German accent.
I thought his American accent was fine when he was forgetting to use his German accent. I thought that sounded pretty legit.
Yeah, but then he would jump back into it, and then, especially at the end when he's calling out for his daughter, Liebchen! 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 Which, frighteningly enough, is the nickname that Irma Bunt and Blofeld had for each other in the books. Frightening, isn't it? And it makes me wonder just how stupid English terms of endearment must sound to non-English speakers. Because I hear Liebchen and I just think, it sounds like a fungus. It doesn't sound like something you call someone you love. It's just, no. And then, okay, let's switch over to French. Mon petit chou. I actually do speak French. So not only to someone who doesn't speak French does it sound like you're calling someone something you wear on your foot, but in fact it translates into my little cabbage. The hell is that? So
well,
I can only imagine
really like
that
coleslaw. I mean, I don't know.
Tossed salad? But I can only imagine that in some other language, sweetheart means donkey balls or something. It's gotta just even out somewhere. But yes, Borgnine's German accent is horrible, and as far as his overall acting, he, like Brandon Lee, knows he's in a pile of shit, except he's just taking that pile to the bank and completely phoning it in. Now, granted, Ernest Borgnine phoning it in is better than your average, hometown drama club. However, he's still phoning it in.
It's just bad from start to finish. Not to mention the fact that the movie is titled Laser Mission, and we see 0 lasers. There's no pew 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 in this movie. That is severely disappointing, especially since this movie, just based on title alone, has been included in some sci-fi packs of movies because somebody said, hey, look, it says laser on the cover. Drop it in sci-fi. It's not a sci-fi film, guys.
Nope. In fact, what it is you have Brandon Lee playing Michael Gold. Now, there's one other fact about Brandon Lee playing Michael Gold that might especially interest Mr. Dewey here.
Uh-oh.
Brandon Lee was not the first choice to play Michael Gold. You know who was?
I can only let me take a guess. I'm trying to think of who else would have the draw. Who at that time? This was 89, right?
Yep.
Who else would have the draw that would overshadow Brandon Lee? It wasn't the Hoff, was it? Tell me it wasn't the Hoff.
It was the Hoff. It was David Hasselhoff. Come on, people are speaking in German accents. Of course it was David Hasselhoff.
And how were they not able to get him? That's what I don't understand, because doesn't he just do anything? Anything at all. I mean, it's pretty much just, hey, David, we need you in this film. All right. And then, like, after the fact, he's like, you guys were going to pay me to, right? It doesn't matter.
Maybe they wouldn't give him cheeseburgers. I don't know.
There you go. How did they not get off for this? That might have made it a better film.
See, this is where you and I part ways here, because I don't think it would have made it. It might have made it equal crap, but I don't think it would have made it a better film. Now, for those of you who are wondering, why are we talking about this on the show again? Because, as I was saying, Michael Gold, who was not played by David Hasselhoff, much to the regret of Eric and the special regret of Mrs. Dewey, he is an American mercenary man who is on contract with the CIA. And he goes to an African nation, which is populated largely by Cuban soldiers, because another trademark of these 80s direct-to-video movies during the very last stages of the Cold War. Like, I think this movie beat the fall of the Berlin Wall by about a week or so. But a lot of them ended up going with the idea of Soviets using Cubans as their stooge armies in Africa because, hate to say this, but Hispanic actors were probably cheaper to pay. And if that sounds racist, yeah, it is. But that's not me talking. That's what the studios did.
Tell Hollywood. They're the ones that did it. Yeah. I wondered. It was a bit confusing from time to time. You jump around and be like, why are these weird Cuban? But aren't they in? But they're in Africa. Or are they in? Where the hell are they? Like, it's just trying to make sense of the plot of this movie will hurt your head.
It will. So Michael Gold goes to this African country looking for Mr. Brown, played by Ernest, I sometimes forget my accent, Borgnine, who is actually a very good clown. Used to lead circus parades as well. So a little bit of trivia about Mr. Borgnine. And the reason that they're looking for Mr. Brown is because he is a laser expert. And laser experts are, like, important and awesome and stuff. So wants to see what it's going to take to get Mr. Brown to defect. And Mr. Brown says, oh, you're just going to lock me away and get all the secrets out of my head. And he says, no, I promise. The American government won't do that. Because, of course, this is before everyone really knew what the American government does, which is exact that. But unfortunately, the Cuban stooge soldiers catch the conversation they're having on the beach, tranquilize Michael Gold, and they take Brown away. When Gold wakes up in prison, he finds out he's going to be executed in the morning, and they're going to use the set of which I'm sure they're the most proud, a guillotine. Why? Because guillotine sets are cheap to build.
And this one looks like it was cheap to build, which makes it all the worse that they point out that the guillotine was a gift from someone or other. I forget the specifics, but the fact that they even bothered to point out that, yes, that guillotine was a gift from the something of something or other. And they're like, really? They gave you that piece of junk? I think they were just trying to get rid of it. Looks like it's made out of plywood, guy.
Yeah. And of course, when we do get the inevitable prison break and Brandon Lee taking the inevitable unfortunate Cuban guard and throwing him into the guillotine and setting it off, we don't even get the treat of watching the man's head roll because that special effect would have cost too much money. In fact,
I don't even think we got a satisfying thwunk either. If I recall, all we got was mercenary man.
Pretty much, yes. Just
you see the blade coming down. You get to see the blade coming about halfway down, and then it cuts to him fighting some other dude or running to the car or something. And I'm like, you get no thwunk, you get no head roll, not even a spray of blood, not even a Star Wars Episode 1 mist of vague redness as that might be blood. No, nothing.
In fact, I think through the entire movie, they used one squib. Seriously, I can only remember seeing one squib. In other words, one blood pack going off when somebody got shot or anything. And then they did an ugly makeup job on the bad guy at the very end when he was supposed to have died in 6 explosions. And of course, like a bad slasher movie villain, kept coming back.
Which I was going to point out because I believe that one squib that I saw was on him. And then they cut to, oh, hey, look, he survived because guess what? He was wearing bulletproof vest. Where the hell did the blood spray come from a second ago when he got shot? If he was wearing a bulletproof vest the entire time, a white bulletproof vest which has no blood on it when he takes it off.
Because he was also wearing ketchup, and then there was some Visqueen on the other side.
Evidently. Yeah, the way this guy, who they don't, I mean, other than the one scene where they're like, hey, look, he's a hunter. He's got all these dead animals on the wall. But then if you go in his special room, he's got the most dangerous game of all there. Some really pathetically fake-looking human head. Pathetically fake. I mean, just, oh my gosh, fake. Like, at first, I was looking at him, I'm like, are we supposed to believe those are human heads? Or are we supposed to believe those are mannequins? Like, is he showing his secret lair where he does makeup projects for zombie films? No, those are supposed to be heads. We're supposed to be scared of this guy. Other than that one scene, there is nothing in this film building this guy up as the big baddie, really. Until the very end when they're like, oh, look, he's real hard to kill. All right.
Did you notice something?
What's that?
Isn't he kind of Brad Whitaker-ish in a very low-budget way? With a shitty German accent?
Extremely low-budget way, and he didn't have a fun miniature set either.
Well, that's not what she said.
Oh.
But so that's one thing. We got a Brad Whitaker-ish sort of villain here. But moving back to where we were, Michael Gold manages to escape back to the U.S., where the CIA basically tells him what an idiot he is, and that the only way that he's ever going to get in good with them and probably not get shot is if he goes back and finishes what he started. They'll pay him $1 million. And they'll tell him a contact to go visit who they warn him for some stupid reason is a KGB agent. We never hear anything about this again. And it's especially stupid when we find out who she really is. So he has to go back. And why does he have to go back? Because Brown, as mentioned, is a laser expert. And now that he's been captured by the communists, the exact quote is, Eric?
Oh, you want me to hit the exact quote? It's something about the Soviets got some kind of laser mission going on over there. I don't remember the exact quote.
He's probably on some sort of laser mission right now. And what this has to do with the opening scene where a diamond was stolen, are you starting to get the picture, Bond fans? You combine his knowledge of lasers with this extra special diamond, you get a space weapon because they don't put all the pieces together at once, but they talk about improving the Star Wars program, which was, of course, Reagan's space-based weapon system. So, laser expert, diamonds, a space weapon. Can you say diamonds are forever?
Really? You think? Yeah. My favorite was the actual quote from Professor Brown. This is the one quote that I did kind of set aside because I was like, wait, what? When Professor Braun is explaining to Gold why they want him, he said, you see, with the Varbeek diamond and my laser, I can create a nuclear weapon. What? Since when are diamonds necessary in nuclear weapons? Since when are lasers necessary in nuclear weapons? Since when is no nuclear material whatsoever necessary to make a nucir weapon?
I would say a diamond can be a nuclear weapon,
and
but
why do the
only in the
Russians
context
care?
of a relationship.
Well, all right, fair enough. But and why would the Russians care, since they already have nuclear weapons?
But this one, it could hold the world hostage.
And lasers.
Pew, pew. So, yes, that is the tenuous Bond connection, one of them, but that's the main one. Also, if you look at the original box art for this movie, it is very much obviously a lift of a Bond poster with Brandon Lee in a tux and Debbie Monahan as the gold girl, apparently. She is the contact he's supposed to meet. He spends the entire movie thinking he's Braun's daughter, and she's not a KGB agent. In fact, she's a CIA plant. So it's not really a spoiler, folks. You would have figured it out in about 10 seconds anyway. But
as soon as she just pulls the gun out of nowhere and shoots the guy, and like, oh, look at me, I'm a badass. Like, what the is this girl doing here? Like, I thought she was like a vet or something. Like, what just happened here? But yeah, okay, something's going on there.
And of course, one of the main things going on is she spends the entire movie in a cocktail dress.
Which, okay, here's the one part of the thing, one part of this film I won't complain about. Because that dress, they managed to perfectly form her cleavage. Just absolutely perfect. I mean, so much so that whenever she was on screen in that dress, I didn't care what else was going on. Didn't matter.
And the cameraman made sure.
Oh, yes. Old guy dying, about to give up some secrets? Whatever. Let's make sure these are in the shot. Let's make damn sure these are in the shot, because nobody's believing that death scene.
However, she also proves 2 rules, one of which anyone can figure out, and one you only figure out if you've watched about a few of these things. First is, okay, Gold meets her, they don't get along, they trade barbs with each other. Such a gentleman, such a bitch, that kind of thing.
They go hump.
Yeah, you know they're going to have sex. However, that's the one you get no points for.
Okay.
The one you would get points for if you had picked this out in advance. As noted, she wears that cocktail dress the entire movie. Her boobs are practically falling out of it. Her cleavage is perfectly formed and huge.
Yeah.
Now, the layman, so to speak, would think that, okay, that's a clear sign that those things are coming out.
Oh, no, no.
Nope. If you see more than a few of these things, that means the boobs are staying in. There will be no nudity from her at all.
No.
Not a chance.
No, when they come that far out of their way to show you that much, it usually means that's all you're getting. Yeah, that's pretty standard. That's pretty standard. It's the girls who are like, oh, look at me, I'm a little mousy school teacher librarian girl, and yeah, you can tell that these are triple Fs underneath this little button-down shirt, but you're not supposed to notice until the buttons pop, and now everybody sees them. No, when they've got half of them are already out, you're not. That's all you're getting, which I'm okay with, because again, as perfectly formed as this cleavage was, I wouldn't want the illusion to be ruined if they didn't turn out to be exactly that shape once the clothing was removed, and they never are. So, unless they're, 90% plastic, in which case, ew. So, I'm perfectly okay with it. But no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, the average person might think, oh, hey, we might get some action here. No.
Even during the sex scene, nope, the camera cuts. You never see a thing. Though, I would like to be fair to the actress involved, because even though it's obvious she was cast for her squeaky voice, blonde hair, and very large chest, she actually does a good job with everything that gets handed to her. She handles her action scenes well. Her driving scenes are actually pretty hilarious. I can't fault her at all, but the director and everyone else just doesn't care what she's actually capable of. They just want to focus on her cleavage. And so you never really get to see what Debbie Monahan is capable of. But for what she's given, I think she does a fine job.
Yeah, all right.
I've seen enough of these. Really, she does, comparatively. Then another portion of the movie that made me think of a Bond movie is after they first get out of the one big city in this African nation, they start wandering through the desert. And for a moment, I'm thinking, it's like Quantum of Solace. Look kind of like this. She's wearing a cocktail dress. He's wearing half a tuxedo. They're walking through the desert, just talking, weighing out what's going on. However, in Quantum of Solace, this takes a few minutes. Whereas in Laser Mission...
It's about half the film.
at least half the movie is wasted with this bullshit. In fact, what it reminded me of is Exodus, of all things. Because let's go to the map. Here's Egypt. Here's Canaan. Even a complete idiot on foot would not need 40 frickin' years to walk from Egypt to Canaan. Now, in the story, the reason given for this, which is something a lot of people don't pay attention to, was that the idea was that the Israelites were wandering for that long because Moses wanted them to have all memory of Egypt purged before they got to the Promised Land. They were wandering for so long that they forgot. And this is why this scene and extended attributes of this scene in Laser Mission reminds me of Exodus, because by the time they're done wandering through the desert, you don't remember why the hell they're here. You've forgotten everything that came before. Screw this. Was this kind of supposed to be a Diamonds Are Forever ripoff or something? With Most Dangerous? I don't know. I don't care. Who are these Cubans anyway?
These idiotic Cubans who Gold manages to fool at one point into believing he's their superior, and then later on just continue to prove their incompetency the entire film until the very end, where they just give up and take off with the boss's vehicle. You're not the sergeant, you're a woman.
Yeah, that after he notices his sergeant in a wet t-shirt after she drives a Jeep into the ocean.
Yes, I get that she's supposed to have this militaristic look, but it was quite obviously a female the entire time. It's not like it was
and she wasn't trying to make it a secret, and her character even says, I have been the whole time. I think only this other guy was dense enough to not have noticed. I cannot enough at this film. I think I could go all day and just this film. So do you have any other about this film before we move on?
No, I think I hit my major points. The acting is just atrocious. I mean, even the people who should have been able to act a little bit just don't. They just don't. The plot is tenuous at best for holding the action scenes together. The action scenes are pathetic in comparison. I mean, you've got... you pointed out that Brandon Lee is a very talented martial artist. Why, then, are there almost zero scenes in which you actually see Brandon Lee fighting? He shoots at stuff, he runs away from stuff, and then you get to see, like, oh, hey, look, he did a kick. Oh, all right, now we're on to something else. Oh, he threw a punch, but that didn't even... It was like a huge, cheap, cheesy action movie haymaker that obviously came nowhere near the other person, even though they rocked back like they got hit.
Kind of like what they did with Mila in Survivor, don't you think?
Right. It's just... dude can fight, at least let him fight. You know, why are you pushing him on the acting front and not letting him do what he actually is good at? And everybody else who he has to fight in this film, you'd think with the budget they had... they could have at least, hey, you know what? We don't need to bother hiring actors because it doesn't even matter at this point. But let's get some stunt people to play the parts of actors, so at least they'll look convincing.
You don't think they did that?
Stuntmen should be convincing falling down. These people were not even convincing falling down. It's like they went to the stuntman's union and said, okay, who are you ready to kick out? Because we want to hire those guys.
See, that's where I was going with this.
It was just so bad.
And yet, it is emblematic of a fine tradition, and especially if you are a James Bond fan and can pick up on all the little spy elements and maybe catch some James Bond movies that are being ripped off, or just enjoy the crappiest espionage plot you'll ever see. This, for people of a certain type, myself included, who just really enjoy watching crap, this is a movie to check out. In fact, when I reviewed it on my site, cinemaontherocks.com. You can go ahead and read my review of this. My thing is I always pair movies with cheese and alcohol. And my pairing for this movie for cheese was pizzeria pretzel combos. Late night snack fuel built around something that alleges to be some kind of cheese product. They're probably not good for you, but if you're like me, you don't care. And that's midnight movie snack food. And it pairs well with Ice House.
Oh.
If you're drinking this cheap crap, it's too late to ask why. Just drink it.
You've offended my taste buds. I'm not nearly hipster enough to enjoy Ice House.
I don't think hipsters are hipster enough to enjoy Ice House.
No. They'll stick to the Pabst, which at least bears a passing resemblance to beer. Whereas Ice House, I wouldn't even give it that.
No, Ice House is garbage. No, the only ice beer that I actually tolerate is Molson Ice. And I know that's cheap crap as well, but on the tiers of crap, it's at a higher tier of crap. So if I'm going to drink an ice beer, I don't always drink ice beer, but when I do, I prefer Molson Ice.
You can have all of it as far as I'm concerned. I would rather just drink ice. Just ice. Nothing else.
How about some vanilla ice?
Frozen water. Ice, baby. So bottom line for me, do not watch this movie unless you've got brain cells to kill. Unless you really are thinking, man, I'm just too smart right now. I'm just a brilliant person, and people are they're intimidated by my intelligence. I need to kill off some brain cells. Then by all means, pop laser mission in, watch the heck out of it, take care of that problem.
See, another thing that I'm going to suggest, and this is really the way to watch any of these movies, is if you are the type of person who enjoys Mystery Science Theater 3000, and you've got some friends who do, then by all means, invite them over, get some cheap beer, get some snack food, get some, combos or Doritos or something, and have at this movie, or something like it.
If you have the time to sit down and riff it, then yeah, absolutely. There's some good material here. That I could agree with.
Yeah, that's really what these movies are for. But we're going to take a break from the golden age of crappy direct-to-video action movies and go for something that I thought I was prepared for. I thought I was prepared for what's coming next. I really, really thought I was prepared for what was coming next. But no, I was not prepared. And I don't think Eric was prepared either, because out of all the things on the list of what we were watching for this episode, this was the only thing I had not seen previously. However, this is also the only thing that the average human being has recommended to either one of us. I mean, now, Laser Mission and the other movie we're going to be talking about, those were recommended to me by other people. Now, granted, I discovered the one we're going to talk about at the end on my own first, but the movies are the kind of thing that people who love bad movies tend to gravitate towards. Whereas this is current mainstream pop culture. And people I talk to on a regular basis were saying, hey, gotta check this out. This is funny. And I think, Eric, you said you've had the same experience, not just from people on the street, but even people inside the network. Is that true?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, even after we watched this and I voiced my opinions a little bit to a couple of the people who had specifically recommended it to me, they were like, what? You didn't like it? I can't believe it. Yeah, this is something that has come highly recommended by a multitude of people to me. And no, maybe I just don't get it.
And I can't even say I don't get it. In fact, the type of humor that it goes for, I drop this kind of humor on a regular basis. However, I don't shoot it out of a machine gun. It's a line here, a line there, a mic drop here, mic drop there, but not over and over and over again like a little 7-year-old who suddenly discovered how to swear. I am, of course, referring to the extreme off-color humor and let's go for whatever chance we possibly can to offend anybody humor of Archer.
Oh, yeah. So this is a show that I guess whenever I tell people that I like James Bond, they immediately, this is one of the first thing that pops up. They're like, oh, have you seen Archer? And I'm like, I'd seen a couple episodes, actually. This is the one thing that we were watching for this episode that I had actually checked out a couple of episodes previously because so many people had told me how great it was, and so many people had told me that I had to watch it, and it was on Netflix streaming, so I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll check it out. And I fired up a couple episodes, and I was just like, you know what? This is just like late season Family Guy, late season South Park, where it's just trying to be offensive for the sake of being offensive. And instead of succeeding in even being offensive, they're not being funny either. So I'm watching this and I'm like, I'm not offended by any of this because I don't care. but I'm also not really laughing. There were some scenes. There are some little bits here and there. Every now and then they do manage to land a joke. There's a couple of reoccurring jokes throughout the show that do make me chuckle when they hit. But for the most part, it is so immature for a supposedly mature show that it makes it kind of hard to watch.
And that's pretty much where I landed on it too. Eric and I watched the entirety of season 1, all 10 episodes, in preparation for this show. Yep. And we were going to do the same thing that we do with James Bond Jr. and do a rundown episode by episode. Yep. But that was before we realized how much we both really don't like this show. To the point where this is actually the second time we are talking about this show, because when we recorded this the first time, yes, you out there in listener land didn't know this, but we talked about this a week ago. And we decided that our discussion, trying to go episode by episode, was such a train wreck because we were so out of it. We just did not like it that much that the results were just horrifying. So we came back and we're re-recording the Archer portion. So any references that you may hear later in this show that suggest that you tell us whether or not we should watch more, you can tell us, but the answer is going to be no. Eric and I have already decided that if we watch any more, it's going to be probably while we're drunk, and it is not going to be for the purposes of discussion on this podcast, because we just had so much trouble sitting through one season, much less the other.
It's one of those things that for me, it's time I could be spent watching something else, just about anything else. I look at my backlog of media that I have waiting for me. I've got a bunch of audiobooks that I've gotten from Audible that I really want to have time to listen to, but I just don't, because I've got other stuff to do. And when I do have time to sit and just either watch something or listen to something, there's other stuff higher up on the list. Archer's not going to bump anything else from my list at this point. I have been told, because I did talk to some people, and I said, I watched season 1 and I really didn't enjoy it. And a lot of people told me the same thing that a lot of people say about a lot of TV shows. That, you gotta give it to season 2 because it really kicks into gear in season 2. I don't know if Archer manages to grow a beard in season 2 or not, but I don't know if I want to commit the time to even try to find out.
Nice Star Trek reference.
Yeah, you like that? That's it's kind of the opposite of jumping the shark. If a series grows a beard, it means it went from being bad to being good.
Yeah, but even Star Trek, they got rid of Dr. Crusher in the second season. That wasn't cool. I don't think it picked up till the third for that
season
reason.
2 had some great episodes, though, and as much as I hated Pulaski...
So did season 1, though, but as a full season. But anyways, that's a different podcast.
Yeah. If you want to hear more about Star Trek, go listen to Starfleet Escape podcast right here on the 4-Eyed Radio Network.
Indeed. But I do agree with you in terms of there are so many other things that I could be watching. I could be watching Monos, The Hands of Fate. Compared to other things that I have watched lately, what would I rather watch? Would I rather watch 4 episodes of Archer, which is about the equivalent of the length of a movie, or the newest version of Fantastic Four? I have to say, no, it's not a tough call. I have seen the newest version of Fantastic Four, and even though I never want to see it again, I would rather see it again than watch 4 more episodes of this shit. I just would. And by the way, it's not a complete train wreck. Kate Mara is actually really good as Sue Storm. But now, would I rather watch 4 episodes of Archer or David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I'm voting for the Hoff. Just no question. I'm voting for the Hoff.
Wow. Well, you still have your homework that I give you. You got to watch. You got to find Terror at the London Bridge, a.k.a. Bridge Across Time. Watch the Hoff-tastic action in that. Oh, yeah.
If it's choice between that and Archer, I'm there. Because, as we mentioned, it tries so hard to be offensive that it forgets to be funny. Yeah. There are a few things in 10 episodes. So basically 3.5, 4 hours of my time, I laughed maybe 3 times, maybe 4, and kind of chuckled a couple others. That's not a good ratio. Yeah. Now, there are ways to make adult and even immature adult things work well. They're called Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead was funny. It worked. And then you have, from 1981, Heavy Metal, with the exception of one of the vignettes, that was great. And it was also obviously made by a bunch of guys who even admit in the backtracks that they decided they were going to channel their inner 16-year-olds and see what would have happened if if their 16-year-old selves had $1 million or so. You can do this sort of humor and make it work, but Archer just tries too hard. And in trying too hard, it fails for me. Now, for those of you who don't know, the premise behind Archer is we have our super secret agent who is obviously based on James Bond, Sterling Archer, and he is a mercenary man. We say he's a mercenary man because he works for a spy agency that is actually a mercenary spy agency, at least in the season that we watched, and there's a reason for that, we'll get there, where it's a private company that contracts out for espionage-type missions. In fact, in one of the episodes of the first season, they're trying to get the exclusive contract for the UN for the year. And this organization is called ISIS. Oops.
Yeah, how would they know that, to be fair, they had no clue that was going to become something else entirely in the future. So,
It's kind of like, Rambo didn't know he was helping the Taliban in Rambo 3. It just happened. He thought he was just fighting the Russians. So eventually, from what I'm told, ISIS in the Archer universe ends up getting absorbed by the CIA. But at the time we were watching, it is its own private spy agency. And of course, it has a competing spy agency called Odin, led by Jeffrey Tambor. And it is, too. That's one thing that you do get in Archer on occasion is you'll get some pretty interesting vocal cameos. Like, for example, in the 5th episode of Season 1 called Honeypot, which is basically, imagine the mid-90s version of, actually late 90s version of Saturday Night Live, basically when it stopped being funny, when all they could do was really, really bad gay jokes, often featuring Alec Baldwin for some reason. That's what this Honeypot episode is like, because Archer is supposed to seduce a gay man, and he's supposed to do this because he needs to extricate his mother from a bad situation, because his mother is the head of ISIS, and apparently there's a sex tape, and he needs to prevent that from getting out to the wrong places. And in order to do that, he needs to seduce a gay agent who's voiced by Ron Perlman.
Yeah, they definitely have some serious talent involved with this, and that's what makes it so much harder to accept how bad it is, really. It's just, you'd think that it would be better based on the talent behind it, not just the voice talent, but the writing talent and the directing. It should be better than it is, but again, I think it comes down to them trying too hard to be offensive. It's like, okay, we can't just make a joke. We have to make the joke and then pile it on. We got to make it, how can we make this joke even more cringeworthy? And you know what? I like a good cringeworthy joke every now and then. I don't want to sit through an entire episode of a show devoted to nothing but cringeworthy jokes.
And they're cringeworthy jokes that can't even deliver entirely on what they're trying to sell, because of course these had to be made to air on commercial television. And so where you have something where you have all this racism, all this bigotry, and of course all of this sex, you can't actually have on-camera sex or nudity. And, after a while, the nude scenes with the conveniently placed arms, legs, and other objects just start to get really juvenilely annoying. It's just crap or get off the pot. Either make it for non-commercial cable or make it for commercial cable. Pick. Because they're trying to straddle the line, and it just doesn't work. You have to go full on one way or the other. It's like when Aeon Flux aired on Liquid Television and then on its own on MTV. Because, yes, MTV was commercial, but they lived in a twilight zone after dark where you actually did get some uncensored stuff. And really, if you're going to pull off this kind of humor, you need to do that. And they couldn't. And so, again, their humor hits a brick wall. And it just fails for me in so many ways.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think my opinion of it has softened slightly since the first time we tried to discuss it, because I was just about it before. Now it's more of just kind of one of those things that I don't care to watch. if you like it, if you want to continue watching it, don't let me stop you. I'm not trying to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't watch here. And if it makes you laugh, great. I'm not telling you that you should stop laughing. Obviously, it's getting the ratings. It's still going. It's still active now. So there is an audience out there for it, evidently. That audience just is not me. So.
Yeah, and we're certainly not going to judge you if you're part of the audience, because let's face it, if we were going to judge, then Eric would have some trouble with two of his best friends, and that's not going to happen. And, I still respect the people I know who told me that I would love this show. They were wrong, and that happens. And so if you like this show, great, but it just didn't hit for us. And I say this as someone who loves both of the films we're bookending this with. So it's not that I can't take crap and enjoy it, because, oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. I love Zardoz. But,
jeez, Zardoz again. Anyway, so let me ask you this. Were there any high points in that first season for you where you thought maybe it either looked like it was going in the right direction, or just one particular thing that stood out as, okay, hey, they did that right?
I thought, even though the first episode wasn't great, it had potential. It was trying too hard to be offensive, but it hadn't gone completely over the top yet. And so I liked where it could have gone there, where you had the character of Archer getting chewed out for having too high an expense report. And the reason is he expenses everything, including trips to, not making this up, Whore Island. And now he has to find a way to clean up his expense record by the beginning of next week. And the only way he can do that is to edit the mainframe of ISIS. But he doesn't have access to it, so he has to find a way to get to it. So he concocts this story that there's a mole in ISIS, and that he needs to get at the mainframe to get at the mole. And so comes up with this convoluted, ridiculous story, gets to the mainframe, and it turns out there really is a mole in ISIS who says that because Archer has been blabbing about a mole for so much now that he feels threatened, even though no one knew who he was, and now he has to get out. So yes, it's a coincidence, but it's kind of fun and it works. So there's potential there.
I agree. Actually, that was my high point of the season as well. Was that very first episode, and it was because it actually had a fun plot to it. And then from that point forward, they kind of dispensed with the plot so much. The plot was only there to feed into the jokes. Right from the get-go, you have the next episode where it's basically just like, okay, how can we have the straight-laced guy be offended by Archer's not straight-laced character as much as possible? Then you jump to the next episode, which is like, how many racial jokes can we make in one single episode? And then you get on to the further episodes where, the low point for me, I'll just jump to this because this is going to be my next question to you. The low point for me was the honeypot episode, which was 30 minutes of more gay jokes than an entire season of Will and Grace. It just was ridiculous. And they weren't even good.
You're not being very fair to Will and Grace. I'm just going to say that. I would say that an Alec Baldwin hosted episode of Saturday Night Live during the 90s, that's fair. Because that's right about where it hit with me. And I would say that that's the low point of trying too hard. As far as an overall low point in the first season, oh man, that's kind of tough. That was one of them, except for the fact that the Ramon Lamone character, voiced by Ron Perlman, was actually kind of well done. And the thing is, he was the one gay guy who wasn't going over the top. He was playing it, just for irony here, he was playing it straight. And so his character worked. Whereas the episode right after that, episode 6, Scorpio, with the gigantic, hairy, let's make as many jokes about shaving his balls as we can, Greek shipping magnate, and then the threesome with the chocolate, that got to be a bit too much. It's like, okay, is there a plot here, really? Anywhere? Bueller? Anyone?
Yeah, that was basically past episode 1. The plots were only there to move forward the jokes. The entire plot was basically, okay, here's the theme of the jokes today. So yeah, for me, the only high points were probably that first episode, the fact that it actually did have a plot backstory, and the jokes just went around that, which was fine. That first episode was actually fairly decent, with the exception of they really, pushed it right from the very beginning. Within the first 5 minutes, you knew that, okay, they're going to be very dirty, they're going to be as vulgar as they can get away with on Adult Swim. It is cable, but it's not paid cable. So they do have limits, and they're going to push those limits, it seems. Instead, they just went to that one spot and just stayed there forever. But that first episode, if you're just watching that, it left me with a little bit of hope, actually, because it wasn't great, but at least it gave me that feeling of, okay, if this is the pilot, then it gets better from here, right? It did not. I will say that the only other high point for me, the episode, I believe, number 7, Skytanic, that had some moments that actually had me laughing. Specifically, Archer's refusal to accept that the blimp was filled not with explosive hydrogen, but actually with inert helium. Over and over again, they just could not get it through to him. And for some reason, whereas most of the time, maybe it was just because it was sandwiched between such garbage, maybe I just felt that that one actually made me laugh. So I'll give that one as a bit of a high point for me.
I can give that one some props too. The thing that hit for me there, and this is a running joke, but it's not a running over the top dirty joke, and maybe that's what makes it okay, just because you're surrounded by so many of those that something that isn't that is almost refreshing. And that's that Mallory Archer really has it in for the president of her building's co-op committee.
Yes.
And so she will do anything to get back at her, including basically get her kicked off of a maiden voyage of a blimp. She will throw dead bodies in this woman's apartment and set them on fire. Basically anything she can do to get this other person in trouble, she'll do it.
Anyone who's ever lived with an HOA can relate.
Yeah, that actually kind of worked, because I think the other thing is it came up, but it only came once in an episode, as opposed to every 5 seconds over and over and over again. And I think a lot of it with me is fatigue. Through watching 10 of these in a row brought on fatigue, because I watched these in two sittings.
Yeah.
And
as did I. I actually did 7 and 3 though. I watched the first 7 straight through, and then watched the last 3 by themselves.
Yeah, I did 6 and 4, and I think that if I'd watched these once a week for 10 weeks, I might not feel as negative toward it. But honestly, the only way I could imagine voluntarily watching more than one of these in a row ever again is if I'm at a hotel that has very limited cable options, and that happens to be the only thing that's on that doesn't involve the news, infomercials, or the same episode of SportsCenter repeating every 30 minutes.
But wait, there's more.
No, there really isn't. Because I'm an insomniac, so I tend to leave the TV on.
Second set in for free, just pay separate processing and handling, right? Yeah, I already know your spiel, dude, okay?
But I'm not stopping there! Oh, yes, we are. So, as far as Archer goes, when I originally came up with the idea for this episode, this is something that I thought we might be able to turn into a running thing, kind of like a parallel piece to our Fun for the Whole Family episodes, which we understand from audience feedback that you guys like. So thank you for telling us that, and we are very glad you like them, because, of course, we do all of these episodes for your benefit. So please let us know what you do like and what doesn't quite hit for you. In fact, there may be something to that effect coming up that we may be asking you formally. I would suggest listening to our next episode for that. But I will say that if you send us anything that says we want more Archer, it's going to require the kind of convincing that you really aren't going to be able to do.
I was going to say, I would be willing to entertain if they gave us specific reasons and a specific episode or 2 to watch. Not like, oh, you should watch season 3, it's great. No, I'm not watching an entire season again unless there's a damn good reason to. But if you have one episode that you just think is exemplary and will change our mind about the series based on this one episode, I might be willing to entertain that idea and subject myself to a single episode or maybe even 2 for science. But you'd have to make a case. Don't just say, hey, watch this episode, it's good. That's not enough. Make a case, and we'll think about it.
I think I can go along with that. I think that's fair. Anything more than that, and we get into the realm of needs to involve sexual favors. In other words, I'm not watching this except for my significant other. So, yeah. If you want us to watch any more of this, you got to pick only 1 or 2 episodes and make a very strong case, because otherwise, I think Eric and I both agree we're done.
It's just not for us. It's like I said. I'm not going to shame anybody who enjoys the show. If you enjoy it, if it makes you laugh, by all means, watch the heck out of it. You know, we watch bad stuff all the time just because it's enjoyable to us. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you, and so vice versa. You know, I don't have anything against anybody who likes that type of. Like I said, I compare it to late season Family Guy and South Park, which tons of people still absolutely love. I will give South Park credit for at least being smart. Like, yes, it's dirty, offensive humor, and they are like, just, hey, how offensive can we be in this episode? But they keep it topical, and they keep it up to date. And there are some episodes that are just absolutely fantastic. Their Scientology episode, holy jeez, that was amazing. But for the most part, it's just kind of the same old stuff over and over again. And Family Guy, forget about it. You know, the first 2 seasons maybe were funny, and then it just degraded into just repetitive shtick, and it was just bleh. But there are still people who absolutely love it and swear by it, and I think it's the same type of people who watch those and still enjoy them that are going to watch Archer and like those. And
now,
it's a lot
to
of
be fair, though, I gotta agree with you. I was invited to become a regular viewer of Family Guy, and a few episodes are fine, but it's not something I could take a steady diet of. However, the fact that so many people made it so popular, and that they also love things like Ted and Ted 2, are why we got a reboot of Cosmos. So I'm okay with the end justifying the means there.
Fair enough. Yeah, so overall, my verdict on Archer is no thanks.
Yeah, that's exactly where I sit too. And hey, if you're one of the people who really, really likes Archer, if you let us know, I might have something special for you. You never know.
I would be interested, for those of you out there who are big Archer fans, who think that there's something special about the show that we have missed. I'm not saying we're going to watch more of it, but I would be interested to hear what it is about the show that maybe we haven't discussed, or maybe you think that we didn't notice, or if there's something about it that speaks to you that you don't think that we noticed or whatever, definitely let us know. I would love to hear it, because like I said, I might not watch more episodes, but I might take another thought back on the episodes that I've seen and see if there's something there that maybe I didn't click the first time around.
Yeah. So with that in mind, now let's get on to the kind of crap I can and do enjoy.
Oh my gosh.
Because we're going to be talking about another midnight movie. This one, circa 1992, right in the middle of the golden age. And this one, I swear, there was an arrangement that HBO had where this movie was going to be played at least 3 times a week for about 3 years. Because seriously, if you had HBO in 92, 93, 94... and you didn't see CIA Codename Alexa, it's because you were actively avoiding it. Because it was on all the damn time. Sometimes twice in the space of 6 hours. I mean, you could not get away from this movie.
I'm wondering if the company that actually made it was like part of HBO or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me if it was like...
I think there was some kind of reciprocal deal going. It was distributed by PM Entertainment Group. And for better or for worse, CIA Codename Alexa it's a canon staple of the crappy midnight spy movie genre. It's possibly because of the ubiquity that it had, or possibly because you have the winning combination of Lorenzo Lamas and Orenthal James Simpson.
Oh, yes. The fantastic acting talents of the Juice.
Yes. However, the person I actually put at the top of the credits list when I get to write it myself, which is when I review it on my website, and seriously, folks, please check out cinemaontherocks.com and the review I have for CIA Codename Alexa. I admit, I look back on some of my older reviews and sometimes cringe, and this is one of the first reviews I wrote for this incarnation of my website, But I really like this one. I think I was in good shredding form without going too far over the top. So I'm proud of this one. So please check it out. But what did you think of CIA Codename Alexa, Eric?
Let's see. How can I put this into words? Big steaming pile of poo. That's pretty much start to finish. Oh my gosh. Just so bad. I mean, there's just... So you've got this plot, and I'm using air quotes right now, you can't see, of these guys are trying to steal this high-tech microchip, of which, based on the box the guy took it out of, there was like 20 of them there. But they're stealing one of these.
It's the only one.
There's a bunch of them in the box, though. I'm just saying.
But it's the only chip like this in the world.
But there's a bunch of them in that box, is all I'm saying. I'm saying, like, in that box, there was like 20 of them. Like, they could have just gone back and checked the box.
But this chip could change everything, which is why they keep it in a relatively unsecured building in the middle of downtown with almost no guards.
I wish I had saved or written down the actual quote when she was talking about the chip and all the string, like 30 seconds full of inane technobabble that meant absolutely nothing when she was talking about this chip. I just wanted to, like, after the first 10 words, I wanted to slap her in the face, and then she just kept going. I was like, stop talking. Stop talking.
Even no, you do not get to slap Kathleen Kinmont. And I'm going to tell you why you don't get to slap Kathleen Kinmont.
This wasn't Kathleen Kinmont. This was the CIA lady or whatever her name was.
Oh, yeah, right. Her. Yeah, you can slap her.
Yeah, when she was going on and on about what the chip was, I was just like, oh, gosh, shut up. Please shut up. It has parallel process micro power to the flux capacitor. And I mean, like, seriously, it was just ridiculous. Ridiculous technobabble. Oh man. Just so you've got these bad guys. They break into this office building, which evidently is a top secret CIA building, but they manage to break in. They take all these people hostage. I want to show you how bad the bad guys are. So you've got this menacing off-camera voice, which doesn't sound menacing at all, and the cop who is just pathetic. Oh my gosh, this cop. Release one of the hostages. Oh, I'll release the hostage, all right. Crash! Here comes a hostage flying through the window down to his death on the top of a cop car. Oh, okay. We know we're dealing with some serious business up in here, because that's how they're going to be. Mm-hmm. No. It's just right from the start bad.
But therefore, it's a good thing that our James Bond equivalent is a completely unshaven, as he will always be, and be ponytailed, Lorenzo Lamas.
Pretty sure that's in his contract. I'm pretty sure if they ever, here's a movie script, it's like, I'm seeing in here that my character does not have a ponytail or a scruffy face. As you know, this is a deal breaker.
The thing is, I would not be surprised about that, because I'll be honest with you, I can't stand Lorenzo Lamas. I think he's just on the pantheon of action stars. He is under Michael Dudikoff's shoe. And if you know who Michael Dudikoff is, the original American Ninja, by the way, you know how bad that is, because Dudikoff's not that good. I have seen exactly one Lorenzo Lamas movie that I thought wasn't horrible. This is not it. And from what I understand, the guy actually is the complete dick that he acts like on camera. I got this from somebody who actually did get a chance to meet him at a martial arts tournament, and he was a dick to all the competitors there. So it's like, oh, thanks, a-hole. And would not surprise me, and I've heard similar things through just trade rumor, but you never know about that. But people I've talked to had personal experience, came back with that. Speaking of other people, once again, shout out to my old friend Ryan Kenner, who has been trying to get me to watch another Lorenzo Lamas movie for quite some time. I promise, Kenner, I will watch Snake Eater 2 in the near future. But for right now, we have CIA codename Alexa. Even though Alexa is not her codename, Alexa is her real name. She has no code name. There's nobody with a code name.
That's how cool she is.
Yep. Nope. Her real name is Alexa, and She's not part of the CIA. No, she's a mercenary chick. See, this movie is so freaking lame, it can't even afford a song. No, it has canned action movie soundtrack number 3. Because the ones that can't afford a song, they buy the canned action movie soundtrack. Usually the studio owns it. So PM probably has 2 or 3 soundtracks. You're like, okay, Mr. Director, you pick which one. Okay, you want to pick the one we used in Snake Eater? That's fine. Or, you want to use the one we picked up for Naughty Nurses? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
But you only got a few you can pick from. And that's pretty much what we've got here. They couldn't even afford a song. That's pathetic. But it's all Lorenzo deserves.
Yeah, oh man. I mean, plot aside, the plot is bad. Plot is very, very, very bad. So you've got this stolen microchip. So these bad guys, they break into this office building, which probably the only thing of value in this building is that microchip. Then they kill the bad guy, whatever, okay, but then, now that you're at the funeral for the bad guy, and masked gunmen come in, break in, and steal the body. Oh my gosh.
And when they're about to get away with it, one guy decides, no, that's just not good enough. We could get away with it in our MC Hammer pants and go. But no, I want to kill the preacher just because I haven't gotten to shoot anybody. Yeah, so suddenly he takes his mask off and blows away the preacher and then starts shooting up the church.
Yeah, I like how they break into the church, guns drawn, showing off. Everybody's like, oh, I'm so scared. And they're waving the magic wand over the body to make sure the microchip's in there. And then, all this time they're masked. Nobody has seen their face yet. Then he's like, hey, now I'm going to kill a guy. Take my mask off. Hey, everybody, look at my face. Bang, bang, bang. What? And then the cops, of course, show up. Why would they show up? Shooting in a church. Who knows? And they all
and of course,
run off.
Who is our lead cop?
Murphy. Why wouldn't it be Murphy? It has to be a Murphy.
But of course, this isn't your typical Irish cop. No, this is Orenthal James Simpson.
I will attempt to refrain from calling him Pokey McStabby Pants for the remainder of the episode.
His first line in the movie, by the way, is a Yo Mama comment.
Because they have to be like, hey, in case you can't see that this character is black, we need to make sure you are aware of it with his dialogue. First of all, he's sleeping on the job. Total stereotype right there. And then he wakes up and delivers the Yo Mama joke. You're like, yeah, I get it. This is a black policeman. I get it now. Didn't notice before. Ugh, just awful. Just awful. So then these guys, they break into the church. Or I guess they just walk into the church. They don't have to break in. Shoot the place up, take their masks off, and they all run away. And now you do get the one glimpse that Alexa might not be as bad as the rest of the bad guys. Because she yells at the guy, there wasn't supposed to be any killing, before running off. She's also the only one smart enough to at least ditch her gun, which at one point I was like, okay, now just stop running. If you just walk calmly down the street, the cops aren't even going to notice that you're there because they're busy looking for the guys running around with guns.
Under the big giant clown blouses at MC Hammer Pants, they could have had other clothes that would have just fit right under there. But no. No, but instead, she ditches the gun, which I'm like, okay, smart, good idea. Ditch the gun so that way you're not walking down the street with an assault rifle. Good call. And then she's walking along and then sees the cop and immediately starts running. I'm like, oh, why? Why would you do that? And then we get to see the nice, fun chase scene. Did you know, this jumped out at me, I don't know if you noticed, the cop car that was supposed to be awesomely drifting into the corner because they were going so fast, and then they completely lost control and spun all the way around to where they were pointing the wrong damn direction, and then it immediately cuts to a different cop car continuing the chase because they didn't want to acknowledge that, hey, yeah, that cool drifting scene we just got, that wasn't a cool drifting turn, that was a guy losing control of his vehicle. Yeah, but it would have been too expensive to reshoot.
Evidently. Or just cut where at the point where it was pointed the right direction instead of letting us see that the guy completely lost control and did a full 360.
They couldn't afford a song. You think they could afford an editor?
Oh, yeah, you get this ridiculous chase scene. It does, at least you get a somewhat entertaining fight scene when she's, basically kicking all these cops' butts because she's so awesome.
And that's one thing I do want to point out is Kathleen Kinmont has got skills. She looks good fighting. Every scene she's in where she fights, her fights look good.
The scenes in which she's supposed to be acting, different story. But the fight scenes, yeah, okay.
So, and what I find that reason I find that especially funny is that we have action hero Lorenzo Lamas. You know, the guy who made his name on Falcon Crest. He did, by the way. Soap opera star. But major action star. I kick butt. He actually doesn't get into a martial arts scene until there's only 10 minutes left in the film. And that scene is filmed in shadow. So maybe it was a stunt double. Just saying. So, no, Kathleen Kinmont upstages him through the entire movie. And why is that especially funny? Because at the time this movie was being made, she was on the downward slide of being Mrs. Lamas number 3.
They were married when this movie was being filmed?
Yes. She was on the downslide of it.
Oh, I was about to say they must have been, because there was like zero chemistry between these two people.
They were married, which makes their sex scene especially funny. And the other funny part about that...
I know we're jumping ahead quite a bit in the film, but why was that sex scene necessary? It was like, seriously, like...
Because it's the same reason the shower scene was necessary, because it has to be there in camel case capital letters. It's time for the woman to get undressed and get in the shower. But the funny part is she's in the shower. She is naked. However, there is no nudity there that you could not show on commercial cable television.
Yeah. You get some back, you get some legs, you get some arms.
You get a little bit of side boob if you have good eyesight.
You must have been looking a lot closer. I missed that entirely. I didn't see the side boob until the sex scene.
I've seen this movie about 10 times. I am not kidding. I've seen it at least 10 times. And I do own it.
I've heard of like self-loathing Jews and self-loathing fat people and things like this. Are you a self-loathing movie critic?
No, I genuinely love these movies. I love this one because it sucks. It's the same reason I love Jim Cotta, which I will find an excuse to make you watch one day. But damn it. So, and the sex scene does not need to happen. It is completely out of context. There is no reason for them to have sex. They have no chemistry, as you noted.
He had just basically kidnapped her daughter, threatened both her life and her daughter's life, and threatened her ever seeing her daughter again. She literally slapped him in the face 5 seconds before, and then it's like, script says we do it now. So, guess let's do that.
And so they get naked, but unless you have really good eyesight, you will see nothing of Kathleen Kinmont's naughty bits. You'll get a very quick glimpse of a nipple if you hurry. But you know what you will see a lot of? Oh yeah, Lorenzo Lamas' arm tattoo.
It's like that was the focal point. Like that was the marker, the quote-unquote cinematographer. Can we just call him a cameraman for this movie? I mean, do we have to actually give the titles? It seems like an affront against the title cinematographer. For this and the previous movie we talked about, I feel like the term cinematographer carries more gravitas than either one of these films deserve. Let's just call him the dude holding the camera.
I would think that's fair.
Okay.
And yeah, you had the focus points. In Laser Mission, it was Debbie Monahan's boobs.
Which I'm totally okay with.
In CIA, Codename Alexa, specifically during the sex scene, Lorenzo Lamas' arm tattoo. Oh, yeah. Doesn't that make you hot, Eric?
No. I'm gonna go with no. Yeah, man. There was no redeeming acting in this film. Like, I couldn't pick out anybody who I looked at and said, hey, at least that guy could act his way out of a paper bag. No.
What, you mean not even Alex Cord, the incredible wandering accent that I don't even think he knows what the hell it was supposed to be from?
Was that, like, the entire time I was like, is he just putting on a funny voice so that, like, would people recognize his real voice? So he's putting on this funny voice so that to fool people?
And it had been years since he'd been the boss man on Airwolf, so I don't think that was it.
Yeah.
That is where you've seen him before, as he was the boss man on Airwolf.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
But they don't even say the name of where he's from. It's in my country. We go back to my country, which is probably Eastern European, but I'm talking like I'm Hispanic, except when I think I'm being Eastern European or my accent is wandering over to the donut counter or something. And, of course, his henchman must have really pissed off Lorenzo Lamas because his hero is obviously Jean-Claude Van Damme because he's trying to look like him. Did you catch that?
I just assumed that was just the way you did things in the 90s. Although, speaking of, I gotta point out, This movie was made in 1992. What the heck what was up with Officer Fonzie? OJ's partner is this skinny little white dude who's always wearing a white T-shirt with rolled-up sleeves and a leather jacket. I'm like, what? I just kept expecting him to go, hey, every 5 minutes. I'm like, what's up with this guy?
And were you as creeped out as I was by some of OJ's dialogue?
Maybe we should beat it out of her. Oh, no, she'd probably like that. I'm like, oh, no. If he pulls a knife on anybody in this movie, I'm done. It's over.
Though I had to cheer a little bit when that's the second time this week I've been slapped by a chick, and you deserve it, a-hole. Just say it.
Yeah. He was.
And how about that avant-garde CIA base of operations that is just basically a concrete garage with a bunch of fluorescent tubes lying around?
Oh, but they had the total like ninja training thing. He's like walking her through. Now you notice, okay, she is his prisoner. He is supposed to be controlling her, and yet he was always like 3 steps in front of her. She's proven herself to be a really good fighter and able to escape from situations. Like, why you would keep her in front of... Does he not know anything? Does he have zero situational awareness? What the hell is going on here? Every now and then he glanced back at her like, I bet you're impressed by all these people doing karate around here with these fluorescent lights hanging off the pillars, huh?
And did you notice that they show these same karate stuff in the background over and over again?
I'm sure they only filmed it once.
Because they couldn't afford a song.
Like, we spent all the song money on these karate guys. We're going to use them as much as possible. Okay. We had a choice. Fluorescent lights hanging off of pillars or a song. We went with the lights. Come on. No-brainer here, guys.
Speaking of no-brainer, how about I traced the license plate of the car she drove? It was registered to the legal name of our CIA agent, which is Graver, of course, because he has to sound macho. And the address happens to be the secret CIA headquarters.
At least, on the bright side, at least he didn't trace it back to, like, I traced the license plate to Central Intelligence Agency at 123, here is where we are street. At least it was the cover of the CIA occasion, maybe?
I would have preferred it if it would have been 1060 West Addison. Get a nice Blues Brothers reference in there so that the Illinois Nazis end up at Wrigley Field. That was funny. This is just stupid.
I think that's what you call pushing the plot along. Unfortunately, in a movie like this that has no plot, it's really unnecessary.
Oh, you mean like when the good guys spill jet fuel all over the underground of LAX and basically blow up half the airport because they're good guys?
Yeah. Totally legit.
Too legit to quit.
I like how he chains up the bad guy to the jet fuel tank at one point, and yet it's quite obvious that the chain is not attached to anything at all. It's just kind of loosely wrapped around the guy. And then the guy just rips the pipe off, which wasn't attached to the chain, and then just kind of shrugs the chains off like, oh, I don't even know why I broke this pipe right now because these chains weren't even... Anyways. And comes running after him because why not?
Though I think even more fun is the fact that our terrorist guy, you know, the one who was in the really poorly guarded CIA building and said, oh, I'll release one, pig. That guy. So he gets shot up, and they just release him to his family right away. And he's at his open casket funeral at the church, where they're presumably going to bury him afterwards. But then, so there's been no autopsy on the body. This is standard procedure everywhere. If you die any violent death at all, even if everybody saw you get shot, you get an autopsy.
Right.
And this guy was shot up in a CIA building. He got no autopsy. But then when he gets stolen, they finally decide, okay, we'll perform an autopsy. Never mind, he's been embalmed by now. No one thinks of that, because, you know, thinking. And they never really guard the body, even though that's what they were trying to steal. Don't refrigerate it or anything. It's just way to go, guys.
Just hanging out.
Good body security.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Okay, you've got these guys take over this office building, and the CIA obviously knows it's CIA, even if nobody else does. So they don't check to see maybe if something's missing. Maybe a super secret high-tech microchip that could take over the entire freaking world. Maybe they want to check that little box of 50 chips and make sure that there's not 49 in it. I don't know. And then if they find, hey, one of these chips is missing, maybe we should examine all the bodies that came out of there to make sure that it wasn't on one of them or something. My God, these people. CIA is made to look like complete imbeciles in this. Not to mention, why would they even be doing anything in this film whatsoever? They wouldn't even be operating in the United States. Ugh, gosh, anyway.
Yeah, well, little details like that. But
it's just too much.
It's the fact that those details are ignored. And the fact that Kathleen Kinmont upstages her soon-to-be ex-husband at every chance she gets. And the incredible wandering accent of Alex Cord that makes this CIA Codename Alexa a staple and classic of the knockoff midnight movie spy genre. And I know it sucks. It's terrible. And I hate Lorenzo Lamas with a passion. But, like I said, I've seen this movie over 10 times and I own it.
Do you also own, this is something I was surprised to find out was a thing as I was researching this movie. I pulled up the IMDb page for CIA Codename Alexa, and I discovered that there is such a thing as a CIA 2 Target Alexa.
Surprisingly, I do not.
They made a sequel.
They did, but you know what? They did not show it as often because it never quite made the marathons as whenever I tried to watch it back in the day of legitimate cable. And there was briefly a 2-pack available, but it went out of print really fast. And the thing with movies like this is if you look them up on Amazon Marketplace, it's a hit or miss thing. Sometimes you'll find, oh, this is $2 with a penny shipping. All right. And sometimes, holy shit, this thing's $45. I am not spending that much on this. And so the 2-pack was, at least when I was actively shopping for it, under the oh yeah, no category, whereas the single pack was $4 and a penny shipping. I spent $4 and a penny shipping on this, and I've watched it several times since I got it, so money well spent. It's garbage, but it's fun garbage. It's midnight movie garbage. And I paired it with nacho cheese Doritos as the preferred snack of people everywhere who stay up after midnight to watch cheap movies. There are no surprises. You always know what the next bite will taste like. And it paired well with a screwdriver. Because how about some vodka to go with your OJ?
Oh my gosh. Just so you know, as of right now, you could stream CIA 2 Target Alexa on Amazon in standard definition for $1.99, or in standard definition, or you can buy it. You can own a digital copy of this in standard definition for $4.99.
You realize you're inviting something, don't you?
And then you can also, it's available on DVD for about $6, and that is with Prime shipping, so free shipping if you have Prime.
You keep saying this "you" as opposed to "we."
Yeah. So,
see, I only left it up to the audience for Archer. For the movies, that's something different.
Anyways, this movie was...
Did I mention we call this "What Shit Can I Make Eric Watch"?
This it's just so bad. And like I said, I enjoy delving 3 tiers deep on the Netflix queue, seeing what kind of weird stuff I can come up with. But this, it's just, it's bad, folks. It's real bad.
Come on, folks, you know you want to watch it. In fact, I know at least a few of you out there are into these movies because we've heard from you on occasion. So anyone who has seen Laser Mission, CIA Codename Alexa, or whom we've convinced to watch it, I'd especially be thrilled at that. Like, I was very happy to hear the gent who decided to revisit Zardoz after we talked about it. That was very cool. And I'm still happy I got Eric to see that. But, please let us know what you think, what you like and don't like about these midnight movies and our midnight knockoffs thing. Again, you can find us very easily. You can go to hermajestiespod.com. There's a comment section for each episode. You can go to facebook.com/hermajestiespod. Comment there. You can drop us an email. You can email me at ziggy@cinemaontherocks.com. Tweet me at cinemaotr.
You can also tweet me at Eric J. Dewey. Email me at eric@foureyedradio.com. And don't forget to check out all the other great shows on the 4-Eyed Radio Network at 4eyedradio.com. And don't check out our great sponsor, too, Revenge Lover Designs at RevengeLover.com. That's Raven, who did the amazing logo for 4-Eyed Radio. She's also done some work for Comicare and The Fro Show. Fantastic artist, and she can do your logo or your design. So hit her up. Get some sweet, sweet Mercenary Man artist action.
Hey, Eric, guess what?
What's that?
Mercenaryman.com is available.
How is that even possible? I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna just put the song on loop. Just
it's
constantly.
On sale. The domain is on sale. Oh my god, that's funny.
Oh my god, are you serious? Mercenaryman.com really is not used?
No, and you can register for $3. If anyone does register it before we get a chance, that's awesome. Though I will say there's one thing that's disappointing about everything that we watched for this episode, especially Laser Mission, because it offered the best chance for it. There were no chickens. What the hell, folks?
No chickens at all. Yeah, that's disappointing.
Even in Archer's bedroom, he had a lemur, but no chickens.
Yeah, they're going to have to step it up, guys. Step it up on the chickens.
However, that is going to do it for... unless you have anything more to talk about with any of the stuff we've discussed this episode?
No, I think we've pretty much covered the... let's see. There was the Great Big Steaming Pile of Poo, and then we went over from there to the Great Big Steaming Pile of Poo. And, and finally, at the end, we talked about that Great Big Steaming Pile of Poo. So...
yeah, well...
I think we got it covered.
From my point of view, we talked about that really awful but fun anyway movie, that great big steaming pile of 10-episode poo, and a classic of the genre, even though it's horrible. So, that was our Midnight Movie Knockoff episode number 49 of Her Majesty's Secret Podcast. You know what that means, don't you, Eric?
It means next episode is number 50, if I'm remembering my arithmetics.
Indeed, and episode 50 is going to be a very special episode. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. In fact, longer than we intended, but it is finally coming to pass. Episode 50, wherein we are going to talk about something that I think most of you have wondered why the hell we haven't done this sooner. It is the episode that I know many of you have been waiting for. It is The List, where Eric and I will finally rank our favorite James Bond movies from bottom to top. Yes, finally for episode 50.
Yep.
And we will also be getting a few guest opinions in as well. So do check out a very special episode of Her Majesty's Secret Podcast coming to you in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, I'm Ziggy Berkeley.
And I'm Eric Dewey.
And we are...
Mercenary... Oh no, Her Majesty's Secret Podcast.
Majesty's Secret Podcast, only on the Mercenary Man of 4-Eyed Radio Network.
Only one thing certain, there's the price tag on every deal. For the Mercenary Man.